when you start a company and you get investors, they'll be the first to tell you it's not a fast thing. It's not a quick exit. It takes 10 years. I think a lot of founders in the back of their heads hear that, but they don't fully realize the journey it's going to be and how long it's going to take. So I often see people, founder friends, and even myself at times, putting things to the side, putting my physical health to the side. And at times, founders need to really internalize is that it is a marathon. If you treat it that way, and you need to be at the top of your game the whole time. You can't just grind super hard and get burnt out and then run out of steam after 2-3 years. You need to be able to last, and it's a 10-year journey. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen is like a lot of founders don't really internalize the fact that it's a long haul.
Monji, welcome to Founders and Empanadas. How's your day going so far?
Thank you so much. It's been a great day. It was a little cold. It's like 30 degrees in New York City, but I'm glad to be here.
We had a little bit of a Uber Eats mix-up with the Uber guy looking for me, but we made it work.
I got my empanadas.
Yeah,
empanadas in hand.
Awesome. Let's dig in. Let's see what you got today.
This one has some corn and cheese in it.
Okay. I think you win the award. You win the award for the best crunch of any guest so far. So there you go.
It's from Maicitos.
Maicitos. Muy bien. So Monji, thank you so much for coming on today. Today will be really a masterclass around founder physical and mental health, and no one better to bring on than you. And I love to just kick it off while we're getting into the empanadas. I try to go for healthier empanadas this time, getting some wheat ones. But I'd love to kick it off on just hearing a little bit more about your story and how your weight journey as well informed your entrepreneurial journey that you're on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So like a lot of folks, I've been struggling with my weight for my entire life. I remember back in high school, I was severely overweight. In college, I was pretty heavy. I think my peak BMI was about 32, which if you don't know what BMI is, it's pretty heavy. Led to confidence issues, didn't really play many sports. It just was a severe problem for the majority of my life. And it wasn't until my mid to late 20s that I really started taking care of my health. And it wasn't easy. I'll just tell you that much. It took a lot of effort from myself, but also from my friends and family to actually be able to get in shape and lose the weight and become healthy. And that entire journey was just completely transformational. So it took up most of my late 20s, but it's led to incredible benefits in my mental health, in my physical health, in my company. And it's actually what led to the genesis of Measured.
Feeling the pain point yourself. That's no better way to start a company. And I have found for myself and other friends that we, as founders, we often prioritize the company's health over our own. What's the true cost that you found of this trade-off?
Yeah, it's interesting because when you're building a company, you often want to hustle and grind all day, all night. It's your baby. And Silicon Valley also does this thing about glorifying this hustle culture, hustle mentality. But that often comes at a consequence of your health. And I know living in San Francisco, living in the Valley, in my early 20s, I met a lot of folks who were just working nonstop and neglecting their health. And it's interesting, like running a healthcare company, having gone through the physical transformation that I did, I've found that being in shape physically, taking the time and space to exercise has had tremendous impact on my company as well. It's allowed me to think more clearly. It's improved my mood overall and just made me a better leader in my company as well. So there's tremendous trade-offs. I think it's very worthwhile to actually dedicate some time and space for physical effort.
And I'd love to learn a little bit more about Measured's product. What were some of the pain points that you felt when you were going through your own weight journey that you kind of built Measured to address?
Yeah, so Measured came about during the pandemic, and I had just quit my job right before the pandemic. I had wanted to work on a company. I was kicking around a few different ideas with friends. Little did we know there would be a global pandemic to shut down the entire economy in the world. And so we started testing out some ideas during that time. And I remember I was doing the keto diet and trying to stay healthy because during the pandemic, everything's locked down. They're not getting much exercise, starting to gain a little bit of weight. And I kept running into these Facebook groups online that had people doing either the keto diet or low carb diet. And there's a ton of activity. And there were a few apps, a few products out there in the space, but all of them were really poorly made, poorly designed. Yet there was an immense demand, it seemed like, for these products. So I started experimenting and built a really simple tool to help people figure out how to do these diets, and had some educational material, had some instructional videos, a bunch of recipes. And pretty quickly, we found that it just exploded in interest. There were a lot of people who signed up for our Facebook group. I built this MVP funnel that just allowed people to express intent in the product using their credit card, put down their credit card, get on a wait list. And within a week, we had about 100 or 150 signups. So we're like, okay, this is interesting. Like the challenges that I went through in terms of getting in shape, in terms of losing weight, this is actually real. And there's a ton of people, especially during the pandemic, that wanted this. So doubled down and spent a few months building the first few versions of the product. We later on iterated a lot and learned a lot about our customers and some of the journeys that they're going through, and added the telemedicine piece. But at first, we were just helping people lose weight through diet and exercise.
And how did the product maybe evolve since the pandemic and lockdown to where we're at now, current day?
Right. So now we're a fully fledged telemedicine company that helps people manage chronic conditions like obesity. And we do that through personalized treatment plans, which combine diet, exercise, and prescription medication when needed. And it's all done under the supervision of a licensed clinician. So we're the best place to go to for care if you're obese, and soon if you have diabetes or PCOS as well.
Amazing. I'm curious also just about what the onboarding process looks like for your new users, and how tailored is it to each person?
We try to get pretty personalized for each individual. And the best part about telemedicine and what we do is that within minutes you can be signed up and speaking with a clinician. So we have built a lot of technology that matches you with the clinician on our platform and takes care of the onboarding process, makes it super seamless and frictionless. It's as easy as filling out a few questionnaires, verifying your identity, and then within minutes, you're able to speak with our clinicians. And then in a day or two, you can get a prescription after your results have been verified, and then start seeing results and start utilizing and getting care. So we've made the whole process extremely frictionless.
Very cool. Just zooming out for a second, Manji, I'd love to just hear a little bit more from your perspective about the relationship between stress and weight, and especially being a founder and the stress impact. How's your understanding of that relationship evolved as you started your own company?
Yeah, I've learned a lot as a founder about the relationship between stress and weight, particularly because I notice I track my weight a lot. Every week I run a weight loss company. I have to do that, and I've seen my weight go up on the most stressful times of the company. And there's definitely a correlation between high stress environments and physical manifestations of that, be it through weight gain, or some people get acne or other stress indicators. So for me, what I've had to do is carve out time every single day to some kind of physical exercise. Every morning, I spend 30 minutes stretching. I try to go to the gym at least 4 or 5 times a week. Running has been a savior for me. I got into running in my late 20s. It was a huge tool for me to be able to lose weight. And I've been able to continue that. Just doing something that takes 15 to 20 minutes of your day and is somewhat monotonous can help you not only de-stress, but also get some mental clarity. And for me, it helps me plan my day. It helps me think about how I want to um, kind of how I run my company, how I am a leader at my with my team, and it really gives me that mental space that I don't get throughout the day, because as a founder, you're constantly bombarded by fire after fire, right? And for me, that exercise in the morning has been a reprieve. It's, I think, totally. I don't know what I'd do without it, to be honest.
Yeah, I know on my end, exercise is like the best antidepressant on the market for me.
Have you had to deal with weight issues yourself, or like have you struggled with weight at all?
I have been blessed with a very, very high metabolism. So actually, I struggled as a kid to put weight on, and but definitely have had struggles more on the kind of mental health end of the spectrum. And it's amazing how much the two overlap, physical and mental.
That's what's interesting too, is like you have people from all sides of the spectrum, right? And that was one of the big insights I had after starting Measured is, we were helping people with diet and exercise through these personalized meal plans, educational material. We had coaches coaching people, yet a lot of our customers at the time were still struggling with weight. They'd lose a few pounds here and there, but it was really hard to maintain that. And I remember doing customer interviews at that time, trying to figure out like why weren't our customers actually losing weight and keeping it off? Like, oh, why were they yo-yoing so much? And at that time, we were attracting a lot of moms, particularly, who lived in the Midwest, a lot of whom were postmenopausal or had other conditions like diabetes. And it's amazing what age and what metabolism and what hormonal changes can do to someone. It can be so much harder to lose weight when you're in that situation. And you have some people like yourself who are gifted and blessed, and they have a high metabolism, and you struggle to gain weight. And you've got other folks who try their best and are unable to lose weight and keep it off. And then you have the complexities of having a family, having a spouse, and it just becomes even harder. And it was around that time that we started exploring some of the medical options. And it's amazing what some of these new drugs like GLP-1s can do, and how they can help with metabolism as well. So, yeah, it's interesting to see both sides of that.
Totally. And to your point that you raised, it's also just so demotivating to see the effort put in, and just within 1 week, the weight gains that that past month of work is just evaporated within 1 week. Um, Curious, like if you've been able to productize like motivation, maybe like through gamification, or how do you keep people on healthy habits?
Yeah, it's challenging, but the biggest thing we've found, the most success we've had in keeping people motivated and helping them maintain their behaviors over time is actually delivering results. And that's where some of these medications come into play, is that they are highly effective. And within the first few weeks, you may lose some significant weight. And when people see that happening, then it's immensely motivating. And they often, stay on that program for a lot longer. So, yeah, it's motivating when you're doing well, right? And kind of like in the startup world, they say growth heals all. When you're doing well as a company, then it's motivating for the entire team, for everyone around.
Totally. Roger, can you share maybe a story about a specific moment where you felt that improving your physical health really had some unexpected enhancements on just your mental clarity around business?
Yeah. So I remember late last year, I was going through this co-founder split, and for any founder who's done a startup, who's been through that, it's emotionally draining. It is nothing. It's never something that anyone wants to go through. It's never pleasant, and it was highly, highly stressful. And during that time, I had two things that kept me not only sane, but helped me navigate that very complex challenge. One was having a network of peers who were a few steps ahead, who could give me guidance and share their perspective. But two was just taking time to go on walks. I remember going on multiple walks a day sometimes, but every single day for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, no headphones, no, no phones. I wouldn't even. Sometimes I'd leave my iPhone at home, and it would just give me space, mental space, to think about the problems that I was dealing with, to process it. And sometimes, I'm fortunate enough that I get to live in Manhattan on the east side, where we have the East River, and I'd walk by the water and kind of just zone out and take some time for myself. So that little bit of physical activity, just walking for 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, was incredibly impactful during that time. It helped me maintain my sanity, I'd say, and de-stress me in an extremely stressful time.
Very cool. How about with some of your founder friends? How are you able to help them maybe see physical health as a performance multiplier for their business instead of just a time constraint?
It's interesting because I think you tend to make friends and peers with people who are kind of like-minded. And we have founder friends here in New York. We've got founder circles who tend to stay active, and I go to the gym with a few of them regularly. And it's made for a great networking opportunity where we get to connect beyond just work, and it's kind of strengthened our relationship and our bond as well. Yeah, so I mean, like, some of the peers I have here, we spend a lot of time together, and we do go to the gym together. We'll go on runs, play sports. I think it's a great way to just distract ourselves from the constant grind of being at a startup. Startups are all encompassing. They take up every aspect of your life, and being able to do something that's like physical and taxing in that regard is what's interesting. Is like a lot of founders also like challenge, physical challenge too. They're very competitive, and so it's nice to be able to flex that part of our mind sometimes too. It's kind of like what you do to keep your mind sharp, you can do it on a court or in the gym to keep your body sharp as well.
I know I've had plenty of just founder basketball games that end in injuries or something going crazy because of the level of competition. So I get that. Awesome. Also curious, just from your personal experience, how have you been able to recover from those high stress periods around fundraising or the natural cycles in any business? And maybe do you have any actionable tips that you can share with other founders?
I think outside of going for walks and runs, the biggest thing I've done is make sure I sleep enough, sleep adequately. And this came about after reading a quote from Jeff Bezos where he talks about waking up late in the morning and kind of puttering around before he goes into the office. And I remember thinking like, wow, this is Jeff Bezos. He's running $1 trillion company, and yet he can putter around in the morning and take some space and time for himself. That's something I've done as well, is make sure that I prioritize my sleep. I try to get at least 7 or 8 hours per night these days, and it's kind of counterintuitive. A lot of founders don't want to do that. They try to go for that hustle and grind mentality and get up at 5 a.m. every day. If, props to you. Some people can do that. For me, I need my sleep.
Yeah, I am the same way. It's pretty incredible how just like 1 hour of lost sleep can translate into like 3 hours of lost productivity for the next day. So
Do you know Brian Johnson of the Don't Die movement?
I don't.
Yeah, so he's on this journey to extend his lifespan as much as
Okay, yeah,
possible.
I've heard it. Yeah, yeah.
And he also is a big proponent of sleep, actually. I did Y Combinator with my startup, and he was there recently. And he said the biggest advice he's got for startup founders is to sleep more. And I fully support that. I believe that sleep is so important.
Totally. Manji, I'd also love to learn a little bit more of your experience as a first gen immigrant founder, and how did that also influence your approach to health and to entrepreneurship?
Yeah, as a first generation immigrant, I did not come from wealth. Both my parents came from middle class families in Bangladesh. That's where I'm from. And when we moved to the States, it was a financial struggle from day one. I remember we landed in LA. We were in like a 1 bedroom apartment, me, my dad, my mom, my brother, all four of us. And I remember my dad working at a gas station. It was just like this constant struggle of how do we make enough to make ends meet, and put food on the table. And that carried on for a large portion of my life. And when it came to health, that problem was very evident. I remember going with my mom to these clinics and waiting for hours on end because there are community clinics where you have a lot of people who are going there, and she would see a doctor for like 5-10 minutes, and that would be it. It was just, you'd spend the entire afternoon waiting to go speak with a doctor for 5 minutes, and then the care would be kind of impersonal. Understandably, they had such high volume, but it was just not the best experience. And then you would see a doctor every couple of months even. It was not very frequent. And it just made me think like, wow, it's really hard for so many people to get access to care. And that's one big part of our mission, is to help increase accessibility and affordability. And with Measured, you're able to get access to a clinician same day. And we've been constantly pushing our prices down. That's the power of technology, is that we can use things like AI to make our processes streamlined and then pass those savings on to our patients. Now it costs $50 to be a member on our platform and be able to have a care team who's fighting on your behalf with insurance companies. You have a clinician who's licensed, who you're able to speak with and message whenever you want, who can write prescriptions for you. And that's how it should be. You should be able to get help for your physical health very fast, very easily. It should be as easy as using any other iPhone app. And so growing up, seeing firsthand just the difficulty in getting care in any reasonable time frame or cost was hugely impactful. It left a lasting mark on me.
Yeah, I huge proponent of that. And Manji, I'd love to dive a little bit more into the topic of around sleep. I know for myself as a founder, that's often the first piece of my health that's neglected. I've been experimenting a little bit with midday naps. What are your thoughts on those, and specifically around the health benefits?
Oh yeah, I'm a big fan of naps. I think there are a few studies that show like 20 to 30 minute naps can be massively impactful on your day. How many hours of sleep do you get at night right now?
There's a pretty wide variance, anywhere from 4 to 8 hours. So
4 hours? Wow, that's
yeah,
that's intense. Yeah, I mean, like naps are amazing. I wish I had more time for them throughout the day. I know there's like several studies going on right now that do show that naps can be very helpful. 20 to 30 minutes midday, hugely impactful. It's one of the things that we push our patients to do a lot more, is to make sure you maximize your sleep and get a proper 8 hours. It's not only good for mental clarity and focus, but it also helps with the effects of, for instance, weight loss medications, which we give to people as well. The other thing that's also hugely important for this that a lot of people neglect is staying hydrated. So I don't know like how much water you drink on a daily basis, but you should be getting at least a couple of liters or so.
yeah. Have you heard about the Navy SEAL nap system, where you
Mm-mm.
put your feet up on a couch and sleep for just 10 minutes at a time?
I haven't heard of that. Are Navy SEAL officers doing naps, taking naps midday?
Apparently, according to this article I read.
That's amazing.
What are your thoughts on like wearable tech for sleep tracking, health tracking in general?
That's to be honest, like the future of where telemedicine and digital health is going is in wearable devices as well. So the vision that we have is that every person will have an AI assistant of source who is attentive, who understands their medical conditions, medical histories, can answer basic questions. Obviously, it can't give you any specific medical guidance, or it can't write prescriptions for you, but it can be there to help understand and parse out some of the things you're providing it. And it can also have access to your wearable data. So this is something we're building into the Measured platform as well, is connecting into Apple Health and using AI to understand and at least surface insights to a licensed clinician so that they can make better and more informed clinical decisions. So it's immensely important. What it's doing, what it's allowing is clinicians to have a complete picture of your life and your lifestyle, and not just the 5-10 minutes they have with you on a bi-monthly basis.
This is a pretty juicy topic. I think we should do a second round of empanadas and
Oh
dig in
yeah.
a little bit more to wearable tech. Um, any specific user stories come to mind, or kind of use cases where you've really been able to see the data pulled from wearable tech have a significant impact on just the health of one of your users?
We're still like early in the process in integrating this wearable tech into our platform. But I'm a user of Apple Watch myself. I don't know if you use any wearable devices, but to me, it's been an incredible asset. I use it for every workout. I use it sometimes to track my sleep and my heart rate as well. And just having that level of data has been tremendous. We have had a few patients use Apple Health and provide us with their weight data, which is also great because we have a tool to be able to track it in our app. But oftentimes people have connected scales, and Apple Health provides a lot of it provides much more granular data, so we get to see a complete history of how their weight has changed, and that's just the starting point. Like as wearable devices become more complex and provide more telemetry and metrics, it's going to be able to provide a very rich picture to your clinician and to your medical team.
I'd love to hear the vision of what you see the next 1 or 2 years look like with wearable tech. Any kind of additional telemetry that you've seen in the works, or additional insights that at least you'd love to be able to pull for your product?
I'm super excited about kind of sleep wearable tech. And 8 Sleep is a great company. I don't know if you've ever used an 8 Sleep mattress, or it's an experience. Not only can you control the temperature, but it's giving you a score on your sleep throughout the process. It's still hugely untapped, I feel. Just being able to better gauge how well someone is sleeping, because like you've mentioned a few times, sleep is so critical to your physical performance, your mental performance, how your company is doing. So I'm most excited about that, is the advances in kind of sleep tech.
Very cool. At what point do you think we become like too overly dependent on wearables?
I don't think there's ever a point where we'll become too overly dependent, to be honest. I think it's just the next step of evolution is we're building all this technology, and it's really on us to embrace it and kind of evolve as a species, if you will. That's the way I look at it, at least. It's not like there are some downsides and risks of things like too much social media and disinformation and things like that. But when it comes to wearable tech, I'd say the more data, the better.
Totally.
What kind of wearable tech are you most excited about?
I've got an Aura ring myself, and I'm put a lot of value into just like how compact and discreet it can get. But yeah, I've kind of gone down the Aura loophole.
I've seen auras, but I've never used one myself. Like, does it provide you data that's different than like an Apple Watch or?
And I'm less familiar with Apple Watch, but I believe they're fairly similar. And it's more just kind of the condensed nature of like being in a ring instead of a watch to wear. So
Yeah, that's on my holiday shopping list. I think I'm going to pick one up.
awesome. Yeah, I've actually had a bad experience of just traveling around South America and getting robbed with a big visible watch. So I try to keep it
Oh
discreet.
wow! Oh no way! Where was that at?
It was actually in Ecuador. Yeah,
Wow.
it was we can do a quick side story. I was holding a quesadilla instead of an empanada. So when the person stole it, they had their getaway car. I threw the quesadilla at the
Oh
car,
no way!
and my police report was I didn't see what the license plate was, but it was the yellow car with the guacamole on the right windshield window. And the police in Ecuador, they were able to find
No
my
way!
stolen wallet. So yeah,
Wow, that's a hell of a story. That's insane.
awesome, Monji. How's the empanada coming along?
It's going well. I'm going to dig into the second one now.
Number
First one
two.
was delicious. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see what number two is.
Mm. This looks like beef and something else. I can't tell, but it's delicious as well. Wow.
So, Maji, what's one thing that you think most founders are thinking about their health, but maybe they're too afraid to admit or say out loud?
That's a really good question. I think a lot of founders realize the time intensity of doing a company. And when you start a company and you get investors, they'll be the first to tell you it's not a fast thing. It's not a quick exit. It takes 10 years. I think a lot of founders in the back of their heads hear that, but they don't fully realize the journey it's going to be and how long it's going to take. So I often see people, founder friends, and even myself at times, uh, putting things to the side, putting my physical health to the side at times, because you're like, in your head, it's hard to process that it's this long, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint, right? You hear that time and time again, but it's hard to internalize that. And I think that's one of the things that like founders need to really internalize, is that it is a marathon. And if you treat it that way, then you need to be at the top of your game the whole time. You can't just, grind super hard and get burnt out and then run out of steam after 2-3 years. You need to be able to last. And it's a 10-year journey. It's not just a short marathon either. It's like a 10-year marathon. So I think that's the biggest thing that I've seen, is like a lot of founders don't really internalize the fact that it's a long haul.
Totally. How about the stress around finances, or just personal finances or company fundraising? How have you seen that impact founder health from your perspective?
Yeah, most founders I know are on the founder salary, which is not great. You always are willing to sacrifice that first and foremost for the sake of your company. Thankfully, as the company matures and starts doing better, you're able to pay yourself more, and it's an immense de-stressor when you can have a reasonable salary. But the first couple of years are really hard. I think there's like a lot of debates happening on whether, how aggressive you should be when it comes to cutting your salary as a founder early on. I'm in the camp of like, pay yourself enough so that it's not incredibly stressful. Because if you are constantly stressed about finances, then you're not going to be as good of a founder, as good of a leader as you can be. So yeah, I'm in the camp of like, pay yourself enough to not have to stress about rent and expenses and dip in your savings. But obviously, don't overdo it either.
Yeah, totally. It's pretty incredible how just even from personal finances, the stress related there can impact all other parts of health, life, focus. So totally with you there.
I think one other thing that I've come to realize too, in kind of taking care of my health as I build a company, is that you don't have to do strenuous exercise for an hour and a half to actually get feel good. You can take small actions. You can go for a quick walk, even just like stretching at your desk and just getting some circulation, blood circulation, can be immensely beneficial to being able to think more clearly and helping you with your startup as well. So I think that's another thing that a lot of founder friends don't realize, is like they're sitting, even if they get a standing desk, like they're sitting or standing all day. They're not really moving much. And just taking up 10, 15 minutes out of your day to do that can be immensely beneficial.
What would you say is the most effective one of those like minimal time investment required activities to do, maybe between two Zoom calls?
I'm a huge fan of just like stretching and doing a few push-ups. Like I'll knock out like 10, 20 push-ups. And, whether it's push-ups or like just walking around the office even, that could be fantastic.
Last question I have for you. What's one strongly held belief that you have that 99% of other people would disagree with?
I think medications are good in general. Like it's not bad to be taking GLP-1s and other medications. Like that's one kind of counterintuitive insight I had when like I was able to get in shape through exercise and diet, and it transformed my life. And I started a company that helped people eat healthy and do exercise. And then these new medications came out that were incredibly effective. And I was the biggest voice against them at my company. I was like, why would you? That sounds too good to be true. These medications that are supposed to magically make you lose weight, like, no way. And then I went to an obesity conference and I spoke with hundreds of scientists. and all these doctors. We got clinical advisors. And it was so eye-opening to see the research and to better understand what's happening. And when you zoom out and think about it and realize that these medications are really just tools to be able to live healthier. And yes, there are like societal things that need to happen as well. Like we should be eating healthier and not need the medications in the first place, but that doesn't mean that the medications are bad. And I think like there will be many other medications like this that can enhance our lives. And there may be one that helps you live longer. Would you take that? If you had something that could give you like 5 extra years of life, would you take that medication daily? I think you'd probably say yes, right? And so I think like medications over time are becoming more of a tool, and they're shifting even closer to being a supplement, I'd say, than pure medication. And we'll be taking many of them. Most people will.
I'm excited to see what the next decade looks like in space. Very cool. Awesome, Monji. Well, where can people find you online?
So I'm on Twitter. If you look up at @mdolon on Twitter, you'll see me there. I'm on LinkedIn as well. My website is monji.com. I write about startups and my health journey on there from time to time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on and enjoying some empanadas with me.
Thank you so much.
Wishing you the very best, man.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Josh.
Cheers.